that. So that's what I mean by potent and productive components. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the cold calling workshop that we actually do for all of our clients that hire us, basically in the same capacity that they hire Whistle for, that they've decided that, Whistle is going to be their top of funnel company and help them get more meetings and drive more demand. I hate to narrow it down to get more meetings, but basically create more demand, I think, is really the underlying goal there. The whole idea behind the cold calling and messaging workshop is it's based around um, cold calling, around making phone calls, right? And it has this theme of what to say, how to say it, but underneath that, the goal of the workshop is why you're saying it. So it's more about a mindset, a confidence, and so on. And then when you just continue to build on that, and then it really can go anywhere from that. So the goal is always that people walk away pretty much better off than where we started. Like right now, well, hopefully at the end of my little presentation, we'll be better off than where we started, which again is one of my themes for when I'm calling people. I mean, it's one of my objectives when I'm calling people. Like, even if the call ends in a yes or a no or a not me, did we kind of end up better off than where we started? And to me, that means, was the call pleasant? Was it courteous? Was it a good engagement? And that's a win for me. It doesn't have to be a yes, because the statistics don't support that. So the 5 by noon cold calling and messaging workshop. We're going to talk about real quick the goal of outbound phone prospecting, pretty much through the lens of how we see it, how we've distilled this down. We're going to talk about the anatomy of the cold call. Again, a framework that we've developed over millions of call attempts on all different platforms, from Orem to Connect and Sell to manual dialing, to name it. Hundreds of thousands of conversations and tens of thousands of meetings set. Um, and then we'll actually show you what the script looks like, just as a fundamental. And David, I think this is really a good framework for onboarding reps, or even helping clients, that around setting expectations, because I find myself a lot of times when we're onboarding a client is actually having to set expectations around what can we actually accomplish at the top of the funnel. What are we trying to do? Because the goals are often misaligned, right? When we talk to clients, they want qualified meetings and opportunities and so on, and that's kind of too far of a reach for a first time call. So we come in and we start out with this slide and basically just level set on expectations, and just say, the goal of outbound phone prospecting at its most fundamental level would be to convert interruptions into interactions, into a future interaction. And then I put or completions, which I'm sure you've all seen around the way. A completion ends in down here, a yes, a no, a not me, or a not now. And we basically frame up the script so that we give ourselves the opportunity to end here. And when I'm setting expectations with clients, I'm of the mindset that a no or a not me or a not now is as good as a yes, that all things are created equal. And our goal is basically a completion, so that we know what we're doing with this prospect the next time we interact with them, or never call them again. So this is our most fundamental basis here: convert interruptions into future interactions. Um, of course, the goal, the underlying goal for everybody, and this is an interesting thought here, is that I have this concept that I use, again, that came way before me. Is I have this idea that I like to take aim at a certain goal, right, and then from there take the incremental steps to get there, to get to that goal. And then if along the way the incremental steps require that I have to reset my goal, even better, right? But the reality is that all of our positive emotion and fun in doing the work and so on comes from taking the incremental steps. And I think that goes for life too, right? We set a goal, and when we achieve that goal, it's like game over. We have to start the game over. I mean, what's a good example of that? You go to college or university, and one day you're graduate and you're the king of the hill. The next week you're looking for a job at Starbucks, right? Or something. You're at the bottom of the pile again. So it's the incremental steps that, you know, that we take to get somewhere, that is really where we find the positive emotion. And that's how I kind of try to help elevate the spirit of, you know, the SDR team when they're having a rough day. So, you know, fundamentally at the SDR level, we're taking aim at increasing pipeline creation rates month over month. And the reason why I say at the SDR level is that depending on who you talk to, right? If you were talking to the CEO at a company, they would be asking, where's the revenue, right? And if you were talking to a VP of sales at a company, they would be saying, where is the pipeline? You know, because the pipeline leads to revenue, but they've got to talk to the AEs and the CEO. The AEs, if you talk to them, they would say, where are my meetings? Because they're talking to the SDR and they want to know where the meetings are. The SDR would then be saying, to cover their own butt, well, the data's not that good. Where's the better data? Where's the good contacts? Where's the good scripts? So that's why for top of funnel meeting setting, I have our goal at this level is to increase pipeline creation rates month after month, basically increase the conversation flow rate and the number of meetings and forward moving momentum, you know, around yes, no, not me, not now. I know you guys do some of this work in here, the incremental steps to get there, you know, some of these things around the data validation piece that David offers as a service, which is only calling people when we answer the phone, or basically doing data curation to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. The purpose of the workshop today is this right here: know exactly what to say when people do answer the phone. And then, of course, there's the enablement on the technology side, basically setting up the databases, sales engagement platforms, CRMs, so that your data is organized, basically that you're actually calling people in an order that makes sense as opposed to chaos. This one right here, the reasons we call, this was actually taken directly out of Jeb Blunt's Fanatical Prospecting. I think it was chapter 9, I think, the objective or the reasons why we make phone calls or outbound calls, and I can't come up with a better way to say it, so we're just borrowing Jeb's. You know, the goals are to build familiarity, gather information, set a meeting, or close a deal. Where close a deal, some people would say, well, not so much in B2B because, you know, it's not transactional. But one thing that we've been finding at 5 by Noon for some of the customers that we're making calls for is that in the SaaS world, where people are moving towards, you know, product-led growth, having a mechanism on basically their market is getting people signed up for trials or getting them signed up for free into a free, you know, version of their software. We've actually been doing that motion for our clients, like basically setting up scripts that would get somebody to actually sign up for a trial in the call. So we've kind of, you know, loosened this up a little bit and said it may not be to close a deal, but because of the nature of SaaS, we may be able to take the call to the extent that we could get somebody to sign up for a trial, or actually get involved with our product-led growth ecosystem. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a really good example. We had a client that was a reputation management SaaS platform. And the way that they gathered leads is they basically set up a tool that would go out and scrape Yelp and other review platforms to find companies, let's say restaurants or service companies or so on, that were victim of a bad review in the last, let's say, week or two. That's how they generated their list. Then we would go find a phone number to call, you know, the owner of that company. We would call up and introduce the company and say, hey, you know, as part of a way to introduce ourselves and show you that we might help you. I'm not sure if you're aware, but you got a bad review last week. Did you notice that? No, we didn't. Well, part of the way that we introduce ourselves is that we actually might be able to get this bad review removed for you in the next 7 days. Any objection at all to us taking a crack at that to get that, you know, removed for you? And then after that, we can talk a little bit more about how the service works over a long term. And, you know, the conversion rate on that was above 70%, you know, so almost 3 out of 4 people said, sure, why not? And then that call turned into getting somebody to sign up, you know, say, I'm going to send you an email using your email. I'm going to register for you for the platform. You're going to get an email. I'm going to do that right now. Just click on it and accept it. And that basically means that you're giving us the permission to act on your behalf. We'll set up a meeting for a week from now. We'll see if we were able to remove this. And then those people became customers. So we were able to circumvent the whole, let's set a meeting, let's introduce you to the company, by actually taking, basically turning a product-led growth motion into, putting it into motion, actually getting somebody registered for the platform, right? So again, I always like to hit on that, because I think the way that the market is changing is that it's not so much cold calling is dead and meeting settings dead. No, one-on-one human interactions are alive and well, and people are trying to solve real problems. And if it means interjecting a phone call between two people because you solve a real problem, nobody cares if it was a cold call. Nobody cares that you were an interruption. People are happy that you called up in a nice, kind way to introduce yourself and share something with them that could really, again, end up better off than where you started, right? End up better off than where you started. And we're doing that in first-time calls. So now, to kind of bring these four different items into something that's workable, we kind of coined this idea of compound conversations. Again, this goes back to that idea of setting expectations with the clients, right? Like, we may not be able to set a meeting on the first call because it's too much of an ask, or the personality type, right? I mean, if you think about this in terms of the difference between calling the benefits director for a large organization in HR, as opposed to calling the chief information security officer, these are two different personalities. I mean, these two people come from completely different walks of life. The CISOs hardly answer their phone. When they do, they're buttoned up, security's tight, you're calling about security. You're not going to get them to, start sharing secrets with you, because it just goes against their whole entire existence. We're about security. No, I'm not going to share anything with you. Are you crazy? I don't even know who you are. Where the benefits person, you take the demeanor of, hey, I was looking for some help. I was wondering if you can help me. Well, they're HR people, right? Their personality, the nature, the kind of person that ended up in that role is the kind of person that was probably receptive to, hey, I was just wondering if you could help me figure out the best way, to introduce my company, but that demeanor and so on doesn't work with the CISO. And so we came up with this concept of compound conversations to basically move the conversation further back up the funnel. And for example, surveys, surveys are a great way to actually take the edge off of two things, right? It takes the edge off the ask for the person you're calling. Plus, it creates the conditions where newer SDRs, that are being ramped and getting experience, who want to be in the role but don't have the business acumen and so on. A survey is the kind of script that kind of SDR could execute, because what we're going to do is set up kind of a contrived process. We're going to call up, we're going to use a script, something like, hey, my CEO gave me a list of I'll give you an example again here of a survey that we used that worked really well. Digital marketing companies, right, trying to get new clients. So we're cold calling for them to try to get meetings for them. Of course, the natural reaction was, well, if you're any good at marketing, why do you have to cold call, right? So we ran right into that objection. So what we decided to do is we decided to put in a survey. And what we did was, for example, let's say that this digital marketing company markets to, they specialize in 4 different categories. Let's say 2 of them are pet e-commerce companies and beauty, wellness and beauty, right? So instead of calling and asking for meetings, what we did was we would get a list of 200 pet e-commerce companies, put a rep on it. They would call up and say, hey, sorry for the interruption. My CEO asked me to give you a call. He gave me a list of the top 200 fastest growing, or what appear to be the top 200 fastest growing pet e-commerce companies. So congratulations. He asked me if I could just ask you 3 quick questions. We're just doing a little bit of research. It'll only take a half a minute and I'll get out of your hair. You ready? And again, we had this really high conversion rate of people saying, sure. And we attributed that to, the way we opened the call, creating an upfront contract. Hey, if you just give me half a minute, I'm going to get out of your hair. And we attributed them saying yes to that condition, right? That somehow subconsciously they're going, well, shoot, I don't have to be vicious or tell this person goodbye. I can actually just answer their 3 questions and they'll be gone, which gave us the time to actually create a little bit more of a rapport. And this was a contrived process. So the questions were as followed, right? There was a hypothesis question. we would go out and we'd see that they had an Amazon store, for example, and that's how we built the list. So, the first question when we did research on Amazon, Amazon was predicting that the growth for pet e-commerce was going to be 27% in the next year, which was going to be an additional like 17 billion over the 9 point something billion, for the previous year. So the first question was, did you grow, or are you on track to grow 27% in revenue this year? Yes or no? Or you don't know, because you don't know is fine too. No, we're not. We're not there yet. Great. Are you using Amazon as a media engine? In other words, are you spending money to run ads to direct traffic to your e-commerce site, your store on Amazon? No, we're not. Are you enrolled in any affiliate programs so that you're getting referrals or leads from other, other news outlets or whatever that are writing content for you to generate more revenue? No, we're not. Perfect. That's all I had for you today. We're going to compile the results after we talk to everyone. If you'd like to see how you stack up against your peers, I'd be happy to send you the results. Yeah, sure. Great. Let me get your email address. Great. Then, so that's all great, right? And the whole idea was that we created the conditions where we were building a relationship with them. So 2 or 3 days later, either the same rep or another rep, a different rep, a more qualified or maybe higher business acumen rep would call back and say, hey, we called you the other day and I can't thank you enough for giving me some time. You answered a few questions for me. Does it ring any bells? Yeah, I remember. Great. We were looking at the way you answered the questions, and we actually have, a couple of ideas that we believe can help you at least keep pace with growth, that 27%, at least keep up with the pace of growth so you don't fall behind in the next 2 quarters. I was wondering, any objection to putting some time on the calendar so that we could share those ideas with you, and you can give us a little feedback and kind of tell us how that fits into your team. I'm sure you've got a team that's working on this now, or maybe an outsourced team and so on. So the idea is, compound conversations, right? To basically, what can we do to move the needle without running, straight into a wall out of the gate? And so maybe it takes 1 or 2 conversations, but that's all in the design of how we do it. So typically, we start with a meeting ask, kind of what we call a minimum viable message, to see how far we can get with the call. And then within a week or 2, we adjust. If we need to go back to a survey, we'll do that so that we can get to the meeting. And then, of course, peripheral targeting is just another one. If it's too hard, like the CISO or other people, will create lists, ask for referrals. Hey, I'm trying to set up a meeting with XYZ. If you were me, how would you do that? And then follow-ups. So the anatomy of a cold call. And again, this is through the lens of the way that we've distilled this process down over years. And again, it's a lot of mindset and why, right? And why we're doing what we're doing, as opposed to who we're doing it for. Before this call, I was on the call with a gentleman who sells insurance to Fortune 500 companies, and he asked me, he said, "Hey, have you ever worked with anyone who sells insurance?" And the answer was, I couldn't really remember if I actually worked with anyone who sells insurance, but I've worked with plenty of people who sell SaaS products to benefits managers, right? To the benefits managers in HR. And so I told him that. I said, to me, it doesn't really matter. Your product doesn't matter much. What matters more is who I'm calling into, what size company it is, the persona of the person, and then we'll actually set the script up to adjust for what we believe their personality type might be. But the most important part is that when we're actually executing the script, is that we set up the script in a way that elicits, and I have this up here, elicits prescribed responses. In other words, the script's designed to get predictable responses from the prospect, so that we're never surprised. Which basically, if we go back here to the meeting set, coming up with a minimum viable message, we put in as few things as we need as possible to start our message out of the gate, so that we can get the objection, so that we can get the information we need out of the prospects to refine the script. And then we keep refining the script to the extent that all of the objections and so on are known, and then we actually can preempt those objections and use them as part of the script instead of letting the script dead end. So, and what we did was we've broken it down into 3 different parts here: the opening, and what I call the personal, actually, over here, which is the personal piece. The best way to say this is that we go to great effort to convert value propositions and problem statements, and the way that the organizations we work with think they serve people, and turn those into more like one-on-one phraseology with the person that we're calling. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. But you can see some of the bullets here. Like, the work I do here is, this is paraphrasing, is help you become a better version of yourself, or in order to help you help you gain a framework that will, assess your current situation there, or things like, I'm sure almost everybody I talk to already has, something in place. They're already working on this right now, but they do keep their eyes open for the latest ideas and innovations. And the part of the work I do here is to, just set up brief introductory calls, share some of these things we've come up with, and that sort of thing. So we take what are usually value propositions and things like that sound a lot like we're talking about how great our company is, and make it one-on-one with the person that we're talking about, not our company and their company, but between you and I, man, between you and I. Again, you're going to walk away a better version of yourself, have learned something, gain a framework to assess your current situation. You're going to end up better off than where we started. And somehow can we agree that that's what our goal is together? So now that we're kind of walking together, so, let's do this together, or not at all. And you can see that is in my close too, because in almost every single one of my scripts that I write, I close it with this, after I say my little spiel. That's it. Even if you decide not to pursue this any further than this next meeting, you'll have gained an excellent framework to help you assess your current situation. And, from there, we'll always be a valuable resource for you in the future. So how's next, Thursday around this time? Or, if that's too pressing, are we out into the, the first or second week of February? Do you have your calendar handy? And if you're super savvy there, and one thing that you would notice there, and even if you didn't, I'll tell you the difference between what we're doing and what a lot of people do. When I said, how's at the end of that call to action, like, even if you don't pursue this any further, you're going to walk away having gained something for sure. How's next Thursday at 3 is a when call to action, as opposed to a if call to action. So lots of times you'll see at the end of scripts, people will say open-ended call to actions like, is this worth having a discussion? Is this worth exploring? Are you open to this? And we've completely removed that from our repertoire of call to actions, and we move everything to when. So basically, I don't if I'm going to put someone to a question to take action, I want it to be, when are we going to do this, as opposed to them going into a thought process of whether or not they're open to it or whatever. If I'm going to invoke somebody's decision-making process, I want to invoke their decision-making process around when. And you probably heard it in my voice too. So, hey, everything I said so far, there's really no reason why you wouldn't want to do this. So what are we looking at? David, are we going to do this next Thursday around this time? Or, I get it. It's, it's the end of the month. Would next week be better for you? And so now it might be making a decision on when works. And if we take the pressure off of, the ask being, what else am I doing there, right? Well, the other thing I'm doing there is trying to bridge the fact that calling up as an intrusion in asking for time on someone's calendar who has no idea who I am is a really big ask. So I want to take that really big ask and say, hey, can we do it this afternoon or tomorrow? And then drop off with the kind of, I guess, tactical empathy would be the way to say it. I guess, whatever. I'm not big on empathy and cold calls, but that would be the way to say it. And take the edge off of my really big ask for time this afternoon to, I get it, you're busy, or it's the end of the month. So would it make more sense if we just put this off into the first or second week of February? Would that work better for you? Do you have your calendar handy and we can find a time together? And maybe, just maybe, we skip over the fact that, we instead of asking them, hey, are you open to learning more about this? And they go, I think we got, so you told me everything I needed. Why don't you send me an email? And then you're back off on, it's falling apart. It's not going. So those are examples of, eliciting prescribed responses. So let's go back to the opening real quick here, because there's something super important about the opening that I believe generates a lot of meetings, right? And it has to do with this concept of compound conversations. In the opening, the most important thing to me and my callers and to the person on the other end of the phone, the best service that we can provide to somebody that we're actually calling is, were we able to start a two-way conversation? You know, and what I mean is the person on the other end of the line, are they okay with the fact that they're talking to somebody that they don't know, that they might feel like is a sales call, or, you know, are they the victim of a sales call, without basically triggering the number one response or objective of a prospect when they realize they're a victim of a cold call, which is what?
Get off
Get
the
off the
phone.
phone.
Hang up.
There it is, all
Be
together.
rude and then hang up.
Yeah, perfect, in harmony. Get off the phone, right? And so we have booked so many meetings from being mindful of this in the very first sentence in what we say, because what we did was we looked at the data, and when we were able to when we trained reps to actually accept the fact that it might not be a good time, you know, and schedule a follow-up for this afternoon or tomorrow. In other words, you know, it sounds like this, right? It sounds like, hey, this is Shawn from, hey, David, this is Shawn from Whistle. And hey, you're not expecting my call at all. In fact, this is the first time I've tried to connect with you. Do you mind if I take half a minute and I'll share with you exactly what I'm up to today? That's personally how I open up every single one of my cold calls, every single time, every day, no matter what. I am listening. I am listening. I am not waiting to say my next sentence. I am listening for their response, demeanor, and so on. When they come back and say what a lot of people say, like, I'm walking into a meeting, I'm on another call, I'm in a Zoom meeting. Popular training and belief would tell you that would try to convince you that they're lying. The prospect is lying. And we don't believe that. We accept what they're saying as a condition, because our data shows that when somebody tells us something like that, it's that there's fear. They don't know why they're on the call. They don't know what's happening. Only 2 or 3 seconds has gone by. So our instant, you know, knee-jerk reaction is, you know, I got a knack for interrupting people at the wrong time. Would it make more sense if I call you back at 2 o'clock this afternoon, or just tomorrow better? And again, the data supports that people come back and say one of two things. Either they'll pick one of the 2 times that you said, yeah, call me back this afternoon. Is 2 a good time? Yeah, try me at 2. Great. Call you back this afternoon or tomorrow? Yeah, try me tomorrow. Tomorrow's better. Great. How about 10 o'clock in the morning? Great, perfect. Or it's true that they weren't being honest, but when you came back and said, I got a knack for interrupting people at the wrong time. Is 2 o'clock better for you? Well, hold on. I'll give you a minute. What's up? What are you doing? I appreciate that. You know, I'll be straight with you. The purpose of my call is to get some time on your calendar to introduce my company. Would this time next Thursday work for you? Again, that's the second part of the opening. I'm not expecting them to book a meeting. I'm still probing for personality, demeanor. How far can I take this call? And have I started a two-way conversation? Because the response I'm expecting is, hold on, before I get my calendar out, you haven't even told me what this is about. You know, what would we be meeting about? Here I am. I'm on my way to a two-way conversation in the first 7 to 10 seconds of the call. Now, remember, going back, when the people, let's step back for a second. When the people said, call me back tomorrow, my script is going to be for every one of those, what I refer to as an irrational follow-up. You know, like they may have not been honest, but I was keen enough to say, I got a knack for calling people at the wrong time. Does 2 o'clock this afternoon work? And they say yes. When I call back at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my script is going to be exactly the same. Hey, David, it's Shawn over at Whistle. I called you earlier today and you were walking into a Zoom call. I don't think you were kind enough to let me know that I couldn't have picked a worse time to have reached out to you. And you told me that now was a better time. Did I get it right? Do you have half a minute and I'll, pick up where we left off? Does that work for you? Those follow-ups turn into two-way conversations and we pick up right in the script where we left off. Again, tactically being smart about, this whole entire operation of cold calling. So fast forward back to somebody saying, sure, or no, or saying, hey, you haven't even told me what this is about. You say, yeah, hey, thanks for asking. In depending on who it is, like a benefits manager versus the CISO or whatever, I'll be a little bit more colorful. Like I would come back and say, yeah, I would have, actually I would have fallen off my chair if you broke out your calendar. Hardly anyone does. Let me ask you real quick. Have you heard of my company, Whistle? Are you familiar with us at all? Again, and being colorful, I might say, hey, did you see us in a commercial during the Super Bowl? Saw us on a blimp or anything? Are you familiar with us at all? No, I haven't. No, we haven't. Oh, great. Well, I'm glad I called. Like I said, the reason for my call was to introduce my company, and then I'll go into this personal part, and I have 3 different ways that goes, and I'll show you that in a second because that's probably the least important part of the whole entire script. Someone's value prop and so on, in my opinion, is the least valuable part of what we're doing. The most important part is, did you start a 2-way conversation? And if it is a meeting set script, that the call to action is in a way that you're telling somebody, hey, even if you don't take it any further than the next meeting, I guarantee you're going to walk away a better version of yourself. You're going to gain a framework to help you assess your current situation. We can get a proposal to keep your current vendor honest, whatever, right? You're going to walk away with something. We don't have to do business together, because as meeting setters, our goal is to create the conditions where the next person in the pipeline has the scheduled time, right? Has the 15 or 25 minutes to have more of an open conversation, where the prospect might be in a better situation to start sharing secrets, developing if there's a problem or so on, having a more, open-ended conversation. But we can't do that in cold calls because the data doesn't support it. The average length of a cold call is 1 minute and 8 seconds, 1.5 minutes. You don't have that kind of time to get into it with people. You have to set it up to get these prescribed responses. So the opening and the closing are the most crucial part. So now let me fast forward here, because this is just what the rest of it is exactly what the script looks like. Hey, this is Shawn from Whistle, and you're not expecting my call. This is the first time I've tried to reach you. Do you mind if I take half a minute and I'll share exactly why I called? So if you remember earlier, my drift from this is, hey, do you mind if I take half a minute and I'll share with you exactly what I'm up to today? And I've adapted that to my own voice and demeanor and so on. But, out of the gate, for minimum viable message and to gauge for rep and how it's accepted by the prospect, we start out with black and white. Do you mind if I take half a minute? I'll share exactly what I called. And then the prospect usually says, no, what's up? Is this a sales call? What's going on? Again, I'm Shawn from Whistle, and the purpose of my call today, to be blunt and direct with you, is to get time on your calendar to introduce myself and my company. Would, this time around, next Thursday work for you? We expect the prospect to say, wait, you haven't even told me what you do. Why would I take a meeting? Yep, I get that. Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. Before I go any further, let me ask you real quick. Have you heard of my company, Whistle? Are you familiar with us at all? No, I'm not. So here we are in a 2-way conversation, and we immediately pivot to probably 3 different areas that we can go. And this is where the script development pertains more to the actual company that we're doing the third-party work for. Part of the work I do here is to set up these brief introductory calls to share some new ideas and innovations around. And then I come back in this. I'm sure that you probably already have something in place like this. You already have a team working on these things. Shut up, wait for the response, because in the center here, we're actually trying to create a rhythm of the conversation. And that's what the opening is all about, to create this back and forth baton pass. And we found that when we tactically write the scripts so that we continue that baton pass, that it works, and we end up getting down to, and that's it. Even if you decide not to pursue this any further than our next meeting, you'll have gained an excellent framework to help you assess your current situation and will remain a valuable resource for the future. And that closing continues to just develop in your, your own ability, because the light bulb starts to go off. You see what's happening. The other thing that we end up developing in the script are preemptive objections. So when you have this rhythm going, thanks for asking. Let me ask you real quick. Have you heard of my company? You're familiar with Whistle? No, I haven't, not at all. Great. I'm so glad that I called. I was calling to introduce my company, but really, make sure this makes sense. Most of the most of the benefits managers that I talk to tell me that that they're already in a contract, that they already have something in place. Let me ask you, and then you come back and ask kind of a compelling question, as opposed to walking yourself straight into an objection. So we fold preemptive objections into our script right here. And then we develop expansion statements, here, like, how sometimes, in that sort of thing. But again, this is the part of the script where it's got to become tailored to the person making the call and the person receiving the call and what the company is asking for. But again, the whole thing here is still about keeping it personal. Like, hey, people tell me that they're running into this problem. A great one that we came up with for recruiting and staffing agencies, when we were actually trying to pitch our data services, like Whistle provides data, we can get the data for you, do the validation and so on. We were calling up recruiters and staffing agencies and using the front end of the script here. Hey, it's Shawn from Lead Engines. You're not expecting my call. Mind if I take half a minute and I'll share why I called? Sure, what's up? Hey, again, I'm Shawn from Lead Engines. I was calling to get time on your calendar to formally introduce my company. Would this time next Thursday work for you? Wait, what's the meeting about? Thanks for asking. Have you heard of Lead Engines? No, I haven't. Well, great. Let me ask you real quick. Are you ready? I'm going to ask you a question here. Are you ready? Yeah, well, what's up? Do you have a tool in place that lets your recruiters source companies that are actively seeking placements for people that you already are ready to place? And we made the question kind of nebulous, a little confusing, because it worked on both sides, because the answer was predictable. Like, yeah, we do. We do have something like that. Oh yeah, what do you use? Zoom Info. Oh, right. Zoom Info to get contact information. Let me ask you again. And then we're the whole idea, we were in a back and forth conversation. We were doing it live on the internet. I did some of the calls, and I ended up getting a couple of meetings, and I was savvy enough to think on my feet. And a gal was saying, "No, we do have something like that." And I said, my go-to response, and this is just a funny thing I do, is I always say, "Perfect. That was exactly why I called. That was the reason for my call. This is perfect." What we did was we put together a 15 or 20-minute presentation to actually show you exactly how you can source companies that are looking for people that you already have, clients that you're trying to place. And since you already have something in place to do that, what we'll do is we'll show you how our solution works. And I would love to hear from you if it's better than what you have, or if I can count on you to tell me that you've got us beat by a mile. We'll end the call right there. What do you say? We'll give 15, 20 minutes next Thursday. And she turns around and says, I'll give you 15 minutes. I'm always open to seeing if we've got the best thing in place, And that's what that close was all about, right? That's it. Even if you decide to not pursue this any further, you'll have gained an excellent framework to assess your current situation, which goes back to our number one enemy is usually status quo. If it's not some innovative thing, if it's rip and replace, we need to basically, hey, the work I'm doing here is to help people take a look at some ideas they might not be familiar with and tell me that you're already got us beat by a mile. I would be grateful for that opportunity. Tell us that we suck. That would be great. How about it? And then to conclude the thing here, what we always do, whether the answer is yes, I'll take a meeting, or no, I won't, is we always add 3 questions to all of our scripts. So at the end, if someone says, no, I'm good, I'm going to pass. Hey, before you go, I ask people the same 3 questions every single time. It'll take 10 seconds and then we'll be done with the call. Are you ready? Just like the survey script. Yeah, go ahead. What's up? Because now if they do this, the call is finally over, and that's what they want anyways, in a rip and replace. So who do you currently use? Oh, you're using Salesforce? Great. Did I miss the boat? Did you just renew that contract last month? No, we renewed it a year and a half ago. How long is it? A year, 2 years, 3 years? That's a 3-year deal. Okay. How many users? Is it just you and your team, or is it the whole enterprise? Oh, it's the whole enterprise. How many users is that? Oh, 3,500. Great. So now you have a deliverable, right? So even if the completion of the outcome was a no, it was a no, but here's some data. They use Salesforce. The contract ends in a year and a half, which means the buying window opens in a year and a half. Valuable information for B2B, right? Because now we can content market, We can do follow-up calls every 90 days. Hey, last time we spoke, you told me that you were crushing it with Salesforce, had no problems with them whatsoever, and that the contract ends in whatever. It's going to end in December of 2024. Anything changed? No, everything's the same. Awesome. Can I interest you in a meeting, share with you what's working for our clients and so on? No, we're good. Okay, great. Anything else I can help you with, or any projects you're working on with somebody I might know or whatever? No, we're good. Cool, thanks, bye. All the way up to when the buying window opens, and then when the buying window ends up opening, it's getting, hey, my contract's getting ready to renew. Are you guys going to do some due diligence on reviewing competitive products to make sure you've got the best thing in place? You know, so we continue to move this thing down. Not to mention that you have a viable, tangible, deliverable for something outside of what everybody gets hung up on, which is meeting set, right? And statistics don't support that you're going to really get a lot of meetings unless you're doing the new ideas and innovation. So that basically concludes